John Pollock here alongside John Ramdeen and Robin Black, and we're going to be chatting the fallout of UFC 207, and we're going to focus on the main event. In this discussion, Amanda Nunes' sensational performance against Ronda Rousey, finishing her in under a minute, and this was such a hard fight to forecast because there were so many questions about Ronda Rousey, and watching this, John, it's really hard to look at this and take anything positive, or is there?
Well, I mean, Ronda got back in there. That's a positive you can take away from this situation. The goal for Ronda Rousey, like it was for Rory McDonald when they got into the sport, is to remain undefeated, go down as one of the first undefeated fighters to retire from the sport of mixed martial arts. Well, she got kicked in the head by Holly Holm. That was no longer a possibility. Now she had to learn how to dust herself off and realize that losing is not that big of an issue. What do we think about when we think about Chuck Liddell? We think about greatness. We think of some of the greatest in-cage performances ever from an athlete. We also remember he was laid out by Rashad Evans and Quentin Rampage Jackson and Shogun.
Rich Franklin.
And do we care about those things? Of course not. The fact that Chuck Liddell put himself out there and gave us some of the magical performances that he gave us, that's why we love Chuck Liddell. And that's one of the reasons why we want to love Ronda Rousey. We want to see her be able to come back, dust herself off after losing two in a row, two kind of, in the grand scheme of things, for a lot of people, especially the mainstream masses, two embarrassing losses. If she can manage to get her act together, get back in there. And one of the things people are going to say, but they've been saying it for years and years and years, she's got to make a change. Clearly things aren't working with the team that she has, so she has to make the move if she wants to get back in there. And I think she might want to because, again, she got into the sport before there was any money to be made in the game. So something tells me that she has a love of the sport of mixed martial arts.
Let's circle back to the making the move thing. That's something you might have considered. Sometimes you double down on dumb a little bit, and we'll get back to that. But the Chuck Liddell comparison, it was only a decade ago, but it was a whole different time. People were much more forgiving of things like that. People were much less focused on this exact moment, and everything means everything. Oh my God, that means she's terrible. People will lose terribly, people will get knocked unconscious. That doesn't in any way take away the things that they did before. What has changed is the game itself has accelerated dramatically. In particular, what happens in the space between you and I when we move towards each other. If you look back over the last 18 months, that's where all the growth has been, right across the board, every single fighter, except Ronda Rousey. And she found that out in the cage, still going back and saying, oh, all I gotta do is close the distance and get a hold of this girl and it's over. The thing is, you gotta close that distance. And the way that you close it and the environment that you're in when you close it is different than it's ever been. But also, we're living in a time where everybody's got to pile on everyone. You know, Mariah Carey, Ronda Rousey, same deal, only one of them has head trauma as well. But it says something about us that maybe we feel cheated and that we don't, the world isn't fair enough that we got to take it out instead of on politicians, on famous people. But it's, you feel bad for her, but Amanda went in there and just did what she had to do.
I think that you can certainly look at Ronda Rousey's performance here, and I think everyone wishes that after the Holly Holm fight, that was the fight in which she could make a lot of these big changes. And I'm also not of the opinion that it just seems like Edmond Tarverdyan's an easy out. It's an easy excuse to make, and I think she probably should be with a different camp, a different coach. If that's likely, I don't know, but it seems Edmond's the only coach that we're comfortable just putting all the blame onto the coach. And
because he's never done anything in any combat sport of any
But
merit.
Rousey has to shoulder some of this.
That's
I mean,
true.
it was her choice
Yeah.
to stay there, and those were her 411 days as well.
100%. You always have to look back and go, where's my flaw? If you go, oh, it's the coach. You chose that coach. You looked at the world that you're in and said to yourself, God, and there's a lot of reasons that are fair that we can all imagine if we're empathetic and put ourselves in that spot that we might do. If I say to myself that what I'm doing is wrong and what I've done is wrong for the last 5 years, that means I've done, and you start to panic, oh my God, what if everything I know is not true? No, you know what? I can do this. And you just talk yourself into it. We've all done it in many areas of our life. It's easy to understand, but there's a Chinese proverb that I just saw the other day. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time is right now. You know what I mean? Would it have been better for her to leave after that fight, after the fight between her boyfriend and Verdum, after the, at any of those times? But the best time to leave is right now.
One of the things, though, you also have to take into consideration, and especially the entire martial arts community, they are, when a fighter decides that they're going to leave a gym and they leave their longtime coach, the martial arts community hates that. They look at, okay.
I don't think anybody's on this one.
I understand that. But from Ronda Rousey's standpoint, that if you go back and look at Tough Enough, when she was an amateur, it was Gene LaBelle and Edmund in her corner. So he's been there every single step of the way. And in a landscape where there's so many fighters that are willing to jump to a different gym, to have Ronda to show that loyalty shows something about her. I'm not saying that she should based on the skill.
There's a line. Loyalty is not binary. It's not either 100% or 0%. Loyalty in humanity is a lot of things. If your best friend harmed a child, you're no longer friends with them. I know that's an extreme example, but it's to illustrate that there are times that loyalty doesn't make sense. And if your life is about being the best and you are training in an environment where lies are being told to you, don't worry, you're better than all these people. Don't worry, I'll have you ready. Don't worry, you can knock this girl out. Those are lies. He believes them. And the people that you want to believe, it's easier to believe we're going to win and we're doing the right things.
So are they lies if he believes it and you believe it?
Well, they're lies because you found yourself punched in the face 14 times with your arms out and in a flat-footed stance. Is it possible she was way better than that in the gym? Hey, listen, let's do this. Let's grab all of the women fighters in the world that are a C+ or better boxer and kickboxers. Put them all in a room. How many of you guys sparred with Ronda Rousey this year?
Yeah.
None of them put their hands up. That's wrong. That's not how you do it. You know what? We haven't even talked about Amanda Nunes yet. This is going to happen. This is the truth. You talk about, and it isn't our mistake. These three idiots. We are idiots, but this exact conversation is happening everywhere. There is something about some people that are compelling. Their story is compelling. Who they are is compelling. Why Amanda Nunes, we hope this girl is going to get rich now. We hope that people will be excited to see her fight. She's been in 2 of the biggest fights and won by knockout in the first round of both of them. But can you sell a lot of pay-per-views? Not that this matters to you or I, but in the grand scheme as how people talk about all those areas of the business.
This is how it starts. This is how it starts. You beat Misha Tate.
A lot of people
UFC.
watch this fight on Friday night.
And UFC 200.
Will they watch the next one?
Well, again, it's like, wow, that's the girl that smoked Ronda Rousey. Let's see if she can do it again. Now it's her responsibility to just keep dropping.
And while we're dropping the truth of how these things work, Ronda Rousey got paid way more than the champion. And a lot of people out in the world, sort of on the fringe, not deep fight consumers, but consume fighting a bit, we're like, hey man, that's not right. The reason all of these women will get paid money now, all of it is due to Ronda Rousey. That's the truth. There is no women ever in the UFC. Joanna Jędrzejczyk, genius as she is, not in the UFC if it wasn't for Ronda Rousey. More importantly, fighting and beating Ronda Rousey will make you rich. Because it makes you rich, there is commerce there, so great coaches will spend the time on it. Great people will come in and bring their knowledge to women's fighting, which would never have happened if there wasn't a big, powerful target to go knock off to make you and your team rich. Would never have existed. Every woman making money in the UFC today, even the ones that all hate Ronda, in 5 years or 10 years will look back and say, we're all making a living because of this woman.
Yeah, the dislike that has come out for Ronda Rousey,
so
I
sad.
find it just to
Pathetic.
be awful. Yeah. I think that there's this myth of this woman that people have just put around her. And believe me, Ronda Rousey does a lot of things that makes it very difficult to be a fan of her at times. But to throw all that out the window and you just look at pure legacy, to have a dislike or a hatred even for this woman, that she clearly generates that emotion from some people, I just find it unfounded.
Most people want to be loved. The people who have this crazy desire to go be famous, they want to be dancers and singers and all these things, they're driven by that need to be loved because they're scared little women and men. All of us. Everybody watching this feels the same way. Everybody wants that. Only she was driven to be successful because of that. And as a result, everyone hates her. She literally ended up with exactly the opposite of what she was chasing. That's sad. But Mariah too, man.
There's a lot of supporters out there that when you're talking about the biggest stars ever in mixed martial arts, Brock Lesnar, Conor McGregor, Ronda Rousey, they have just as many haters as they do supporters, and that's what makes them the biggest stars out there. So many people are vocal. I don't know how many people are going to come out to just keep going on and say, oh, we love Ronda Rousey. We get it. We all If you're a supporter of the game, you're going to like Ronda Rousey and the things that she's contributed to the sport. That's where it's going to end for us. The people that are vocal are going to continue to be vocal, just like they're going to be vocal about how much they hate Conor McGregor.
Yeah, I mean, the truth about it, if you just take fighting, the game accelerates. The super athletic, incredibly talented judo master who could rip your arm off, could move through space and get a hold of you, and then it all works. And in that year and a half, the job of getting through space and getting a hold of somebody changed dramatically. The ability for people to maintain the gap and hurt you as you came forward just moved exponentially. And Ronda, unfortunately, went back and doubled down on the wrong thing, and it caught her. But, how many people hating you balances out with one LeBron James coming out and saying he supports you? 1,000? 10,000? One? We're watching something, and it's not a judgment on every individual who hates Ronda Rousey or takes joy in seeing Mariah Carey fail. It's a reflection on the culture. We've created a world that we live in that 90% of people feel the world is unfair and they're not getting their shake, and they're gonna take it out on Ronda Rousey and Mariah Carey.
All right, that was the main event result from UFC 207. Amanda Nunes successfully retaining her UFC Women's Bantamweight Championship, defeating Ronda Rousey.